But, you know, this is the world we live in, where we need to know how to turn our anxiety into our superpower. Sandra is here. Yes, fantastic. Elva Rosa is here. Welcome. Again, right? The invitation is say hi for a second. We want to see you. And it doesn't matter. You can eat lunch, dinner, of course. You can do whatever. It's fine. We just want to be human together. So I would like to pass it to Ari or Isa to give you a sense of what natural highs is, because we are hosting this series of online presentations every single month with our nonprofit Natural Highs. And I want to give it over to Isa or Ari to give an introduction of what Natural Highs is. Who wants to get started?
Okay, I'll go. Can you hear me? Natural Highs is a community. It's kind of meant for teens. It is from 4:30 to 6:30 every Tuesday. And basically what we do is we have a new topic every week and we talk about these really important things in our society. This week it's been sex, love, and drugs, right? Other weeks it's about like mental health. Other weeks it's about like finding yourself. There are so many different things that we do, and then each week we bring a different herb and yerba mate. Do I have to explain yerba mate?
Not yet. You know, I want to give Elena a chance to give people instructions with how to find your language channel. Okay. And then we're going to keep going.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Thanks to I Have a Dream Foundation, this presentation is being interpreted simultaneously. So if you could please choose your language, English or Spanish, because at the end there might be information in Spanish too. Please look for the globe icon that says interpretation and choose a language, either English or Spanish. Thank you so much. Por favor, porque este webinar está ofrecido con interpretación simultánea al español. Por favor, busque el globo, el icono del globo terráqueo que dice interpretación y luego escoge o inglés o español. Muchas gracias.
And I want to say muchas gracias to Elena and Myra, who are interpreting for us tonight. And thank you to the I Have a Dream Foundation for making this possible. And also thank you to the City of Boulder for supporting this presentation. So I want to let you know that we were chosen by the City of Boulder to host these monthly online free bilingual presentations on cutting edge issues on mental health and substance abuse, and to really support the whole community to have free access to this cutting edge information. So we are so happy that you are here, because this is really a grassroots effort. It's really mostly by word of mouth. And so I'm just so happy for every one of you to decide that this is really important, that we as a community become skilled, that each one of us can be that human that can support another human being, regardless of age, regardless of background. And so this is why we're here today. So we are a nonprofit, Natural Highs. We serve people all ages. Just like Ari said, we run a free after-school program for teens every single Tuesday. We also run classes for adults in the justice system. And we run lots and lots of resources. We currently work in middle schools and high schools in Boulder. And so if you want to be connected to all of the different things we do, you can go to our website, naturalhighs.org, and you can sign up to get invites to events like this today. Okay. So so happy that you all are here. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we started doing these trainings, Turn Anxiety into Your Superpower. And then in a moment, I'd like to hear from you what your burning questions are around anxiety. Because of course we are here for you tonight and we want you to have your questions answered. So you can already think about what you want to put on the wish list for today. So the reason we started this training, Turn Anxiety into Your Superpower, is because over the last few years, we have noticed an epidemic of anxiety, both in schools, but also really in people all ages. And, you know, people think if they have anxiety, people think it's their personal problem or their personal weakness, or people think it's a mental health disorder. And this would be really amazing. And I know you guys would have to turn your cameras on for that. I want to see a show of hands. Who these days is experiencing anxiety? Okay, I want to see that. Raise your hand if you are experiencing anxiety. Okay, or if you don't turn your, yes, please show your show of hands. Okay, that's beautiful. Yes, right? Okay, I see hand, 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 hand. Okay, is there anybody who is not experiencing anxiety? Because as you will learn tonight, anxiety is a healthy reaction to overwhelm. Anxiety is not a mental health disorder that people are born with. Anxiety is a natural reaction to overwhelm. And what we want to do is we want to show you the latest research and neuroscience on stress, anxiety, and trauma to learn that it's not your weakness and to learn that there's nothing wrong with you. And that there is a way to learn to work with this energy, with this intensity in a very, very constructive way. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you and I'm going to show you what we're going to get into tonight. Okay, so, and by the way, I'm going to attach these slides at the end so that you're going to have all of these resources available to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the research, because I want you to see that this is not something that Avani came up with, or this is not some like a Boulder thing. Everything we're going to do today is based on research. And so that's why we're going to start there today. Then I'm going to show you how anxiety, stress, and trauma are really nervous system issues. Yes, they do have an emotional aspect to them, but they're really nervous system issues. And because of that, there are very specific hacks of how you can work with your nervous system, or how you can help your children with their nervous system so that they learn how to work with their own anxiety better. Okay, I want to make you guess, okay? I want to make everybody guess, and you can put your guess in the chat. What do you think is the most powerful intervention to help kids with anxiety? What do you think is the most powerful tool to help kids with anxiety? Ambrosia, breathing is good, but it's not the most powerful. Meditation is good. Therapy is good. Yep, but they're not the most powerful. Distraction, sure, but not the most powerful. I want to see who is the winner. And by the way, people rarely guess it. What do you think is the most helpful intervention for kids with anxiety? Okay, this is all great. Okay, they're all great, right? Don't get me wrong, they're all great, but it's not the number one that the research says is the most effective. Oh, yeah, you tell me when you want to give up. Okay, all of these are good ideas. It's not the most effective. Not the most effective. Okay, should I tell you? It is for their parents to get help with their anxiety. That is the most effective intervention for kids' anxiety, is for their parents to get help with their anxiety. Does that make sense? Because anxiety and stress are really nervous system issues. And you know, nervous systems happen in connection with other humans. So we have translated all of this research into very hands-on practical tools that we will teach you tonight and we will practice tonight, so that literally you can use them for yourself and for your family and for everybody you work with, okay? So we will teach you these tools and we will practice them. And then we also will share tons of resources with you. So how does this sound as a plan for today? How does that sound? Okay, so I would like to hear what your burning questions are, why you came tonight, and what you hope to get out of this presentation. What are your burning questions? And feel free to just unmute yourself and just speak up. We'd love to see you. We'd love to hear your voice. What are your burning questions on anxiety? What was your hope when you came tonight? Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and just speak up.
So for me, I work with adults and juveniles in the criminal justice system, and just being able to give them solid advice beyond just doing breathing techniques, and being able to have something, you know, written down, tangible, that they can refer back to, and just have that education to then give them.
Cassandra, I just want to say thank you for doing this work. And of course, doing this work, you're going to be exposed to a lot of trauma. And so you have to protect yourself from vicarious trauma. And so that is another area where we actually teach this training, is to professionals, so that you feel that you have what you need to work in your own nervous system and to protect yourself. So I'm so happy you are here. Perfect. Okay, Jenna, perfect. Yes. What I would say, you know, everybody who's here today, please use all of those skills for yourself. So I would say, first of all, be selfish tonight. Think for yourself first. And then, of course, you get to teach and share with everybody what you learned tonight, okay? So all of this material, all of the tools, you get to share and send out and teach to everybody, okay? What else? What are the wishes that you came with? Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's just trying to stay on top of it and not let it, because there's so much in life that happens every day that you're going to be anxious about something, whether it's family or the news or finances. And it's just constant bombardment. And then how do you stop that from kind of taking things over for you?
Right on, right? So if you experience anxiety right now, this is not just Mark, this is everybody. If you experience anxiety right now, what it means that you are more sensitive, more caring, and more intelligent than people who do not experience anxiety. Does that make sense? Because anxiety is really your radar system. In our community today, we had the second active shooter threat this week. My son was in lockdown today, right? Can you believe what this does to kids and to parents? It's not okay, right? So this is the world we live in. And so it's incredibly important that we don't run ourselves into the ground. Incredibly important. Yeah. And not have the misunderstanding that there's something wrong with you if you feel anxiety. Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we dive in? And by the way, we are here for you tonight. Okay. So you always can interrupt. By the way, do you know that if you hit your space bar, you can just unmute yourself very quickly? Okay. So anytime you are so welcome to interrupt, to hit your space bar, unmute yourself, Ask any question. There's no stupid question. Ask for examples. Ask for repeat or whatever, because this is for you, okay? So last call. Anything else for the wish list today?
So if I'm having a panic attack and my body isn't really good at thinking of things, how do I remind my body that anxiety is there to help me?
That is a really great question, Ari. And I just want to say, everything we're going to talk about today, you can listen to on a spectrum, okay? Because what happens in our nervous system with stress is the same process that happens with anxiety, is the same process that happens with trauma, just different levels of severity. Does that make sense? Because people have gone through this training and they have said, yeah, but what about if it's extreme? What about if I have an anxiety disorder that is diagnosed? What about if I have severe PTSD that I cannot even leave the house? I just want to say, I work as a trauma therapist with the people with the most severe trauma you could ever imagine. And I teach them exactly what I'm going to teach you tonight. Okay, so any level of severity, it is the same process. And so, Ari, I'm so happy you talked about what do I do in an acute panic attack? And we actually have developed tools of what to do. So I will remember, hopefully, to add that. And if I forget, Ari, interrupt me and ask that, okay? What do I do when anxiety becomes like really difficult? Okay, so you pick however you want to listen to today on the level of severity, stress, anxiety, or trauma, okay? Totally up to you. Okay, so I want to dive in and I'm going to ask you before we start, I would like for you to rate your own experience with stress or anxiety on a scale from -5, I hate it, to +5, I love it. So I'm not asking you to rate the intensity of your anxiety or stress. I'm going to ask you to rate how much you hate it or how much you love it. Okay? You can give yourself a minus number if you really hate it. You can give yourself a plus number if you love it. Anything between -5, I really hate it, to +5, I absolutely love it. Now, you might think I'm crazy, right, when I'm asking you that, but you're going to see my intention tonight is to change your number, okay, to help your number move upward, that you're going to fall in love with what's happening in your body when you feel stress and anxiety, okay? So please give yourself a number. You don't have to say it out loud. This is just for you, okay? If you want to give a number, that's fine. See, Isa is already advanced. I love it. Okay, so let's dive in. What's Avani's number? Okay. I have to tell you, I used to be so debilitated with anxiety that I could barely function. My worst anxiety was, could probably guess it, speaking in front of people, right? That's crazy, isn't it? I remember I had my first job as a case manager and I stepped into my office and there was a phone in my office and I closed the door and I realized that I would have to make phone calls as part of my job. And I totally freaked out because I had so much anxiety that I could barely do it, right? So I learned stuff. I learned the neuroscience of anxiety that literally helped me fall in love with the energy that starts happening when you have stress or anxiety. And I'm going to teach you everything about that tonight. Okay. All right. So I want to start with the research because, like I said, I want you to see that this is not my idea. This is not a Boulder thing. This is actually all based on research. And so we are going to watch a TED Talk, a piece of a TED Talk together by Kelly McGonigal called How to Make Stress Your Friend. Now, everything she's talking about, you can also hear that on the level of anxiety. So how to make anxiety your friend, or you can hear it on the level of trauma, how to make a trauma reaction your friend. Okay, because everything she says applies to the whole spectrum of severity. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. And we're not going to watch the whole TED Talk, okay? We're going to just watch a part of it. It's just, if I would ask you to watch that TED Talk, you know how nobody does it. So we're going to watch a piece together, and then we're going to talk about it. Let's see if I can pull this up.
I have a confession to make. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. In the past year, I want you to just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress. Anyone? How about a moderate amount of stress? Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this: I am a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good, and it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let me start with the study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years. And they started by asking people, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed that stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. Now, if that estimate is correct, that would make believing stress is bad for you the 15th largest cause of death in the United States last year, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV, AIDS, and homicide. You can see why this study freaked me out. Here I've been spending so much energy telling people stress is bad for your health. So this study got me wondering, can changing how you think about stress make you healthier? And here the science says yes. When you change your mind about stress, you can change your body's response to stress. Now, to explain how this works, I want you all to pretend that you are participants in a study designed to stress you out. It's called the social stress test. You come into the laboratory and you're told you have to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses to a panel of expert evaluators sitting right in front of you. And to make sure you feel the pressure, there are bright lights and a camera in your face, kind of like this. And the evaluators have been trained to give you discouraging nonverbal feedback, like this. Now that you're sufficiently demoralized, time for part 2, a math test. And unbeknownst to you, the experimenter has been trained to harass you during it. Now, we're gonna all do this together. It's gonna be fun, for me. Okay. I want you all to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7. You're gonna do this out loud as fast as you can, starting with 996. Go. Go faster. Faster, please. You're going too slow. Stop, 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 stop. That guy made a mistake. We're gonna have to start all over again. You're not very good at this, are you? Okay, so you get the idea. Now, if you were actually in this study, you'd probably be a little stressed out. Your heart might be pounding, you might be breathing faster, maybe breaking out into a sweat. And normally we interpret these physical changes as anxiety or signs that we aren't coping very well with the pressure. But what if you viewed them instead as signs that your body was energized, was preparing you to meet this challenge? Now, that is exactly what participants were told in a study conducted at Harvard University. Before they went through the social stress test, they were taught to rethink their stress response as helpful. That pounding heart is preparing you for action. If you're breathing faster, it's no problem. It's getting more oxygen to your brain. And participants who learned to view the stress response as helpful for their performance, well, they were less stressed out, less anxious, more confident. But the most fascinating finding to me was how their physical stress response changed. Now, in a typical stress response, your heart rate goes up and your blood vessels constrict like this. And this is one of the reasons that chronic stress is sometimes associated with cardiovascular disease. It's not really healthy to be in this state all the time. But in the study, when participants viewed their stress response as helpful, their blood vessels stayed relaxed like this. Their heart was still pounding, but this is a much healthier cardiovascular profile. It actually looks a lot like what happens in moments of joy and courage. Over a lifetime of stressful experiences, this one biological change could be the difference between a stress-induced heart attack at age 50 and living well into your 90s. And this is really what the new science of stress reveals, that how you think about stress matters. So my goal as a health psychologist has changed. I no longer want to get rid of your stress. I want to make you better at stress. And we just did a little intervention. If you raised your hand and said you'd had a lot of stress in the last year, we could have saved your life. Because hopefully the next time your heart is pounding from stress, you're going to remember this talk and you're going to think to yourself, this is my body helping me rise to this challenge. And when you view stress in that way, your body believes you and your stress response becomes healthier. Now, I said I have over a decade of demonizing stress to redeem myself from. So we are going to do one more intervention. I want to tell you about one of the most underappreciated aspects of the stress response. And the idea is this: stress makes you social.
Okay, I want to stop it right there. And just for you to know, she is now going into the second part of this TED Talk that is even better than what you just watched. And that is that stress releases oxytocin. Now, that is not very known, that oxytocin is a stress hormone. What is oxytocin known for?
For when mothers nurse and it's released into their bloodstream and it helps them relax and sleep and all that good stuff.
Really, it's known as the love hormone. It's known as the bonding hormone, right? Did you know that massive amounts of oxytocin get released during stress and trauma? And then, of course, that can go both ways, right? It could go a good way. We could bond in a good way during stress, or we could bond in a non so healthy way. Can you see that? So we have taught this to people after the fires in Boulder, in the Boulder community that, you know, you have to be careful after a disaster, what you do, because you will bond with it, right? So there is incredible information in the second half of the TED Talk. My hope is that you go back to watch it, okay? I hope I intrigued you enough to go back, but it's like its own TED Talk, right? And so I want to just talk about what you just saw and what stood out to you. And especially, what would this mean in your life? How would you apply what Kelly McGonigal just talked about? How would you do that?
It was surprising to me that she said that it can also cause levels of like joy or like the same levels as like happiness or joy, because it's just like changing this one little thing of how you look at anxiety and how you feel about your own emotions, like could change so drastically how it affects your entire body and nervous system.
Yeah, right? And by the way, I'm so happy you're here, Taryn. This is so great to have you. So
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
super. So this is interesting, right? But you know what is funny to me? This TED Talk has now been watched over 20 million times. Do I believe that now 20 million people are doing what she's talking about? That the next time people are in stress, they say, this is great. This is my body helping me. Do I believe that? No, I don't. And my question is, why is it not that easy? Next time you have anxiety, to say to yourself, this is great.
I think as a society, we've kind of demonized anxiety and stress as something that you need to be medicated for. It is an issue, and that it's not something that you should have, or at least have a positive relationship with.
Absolutely, right? We are now teaching people that this is a mental health disorder. And when people go to a doctor and they say, I have anxiety, what's happening next? They probably walk out with a prescription, right? So it's very clear, exactly, Cassandra, what you just said. It is pathologized, right? People think it is a problem and people think it's their own personal problem. You know, when I teach this in large groups of people, people are surprised that most people have anxiety right now. They don't know that. They think it's just them, you know, and that everybody else is just fine. So that is absolutely true. And there's another reason why it's not that easy to do what she just said. Why is it not so easy next time you have anxiety to say, oh, this is great? Mark, unmute yourself.
Yeah, for me, it seems to change me in some ways, and I get focused on becoming short-tempered, angry, just irritable, and that's what I don't like about it.
Totally. It is not that easy to do what she's talking about. And the reason is because it is an automatic reflex that we have had for 2 million years since the Stone Age. That is not that easy to change. Okay. And so I show you now how we teach this to kids, adults, professionals, how we teach people to translate what she is saying to be actually able to do it. Okay. So feel free to take notes if you want to teach it to your family, if you want to teach it to your colleagues, to your clients, you are totally welcome to do that. Okay. So I want to show you. So when you are in a situation of overwhelm or of stress, what actually happens in your body? When you get into a situation of overwhelm or stress, what happens next in your body?
Heart rate increases.
Totally. Within a split second, you have all this intense energy kicked up, right? Adrenaline, very intense energy. Mark, what you said, you suddenly become very pressured and irritable. Now, is this energy good energy or bad energy? Would you call this energy good energy or bad energy?
I think it's good if you can control it and handle it, or just realize there's other ways to react to it than getting angry or getting upset.
Totally. Now, I have to tell you, most people who I ask if this energy is good energy or bad energy, they would say bad because it doesn't feel good, right? And then I ask them, I say, do you remember the guy who was jumped on by a mountain lion in northern Colorado about a year ago? Did you hear about that? Okay, let me ask you, what happened in his body? So the moment he was jumped on by a mountain lion, what happened in his body? Same thing, right? Would you call the energy in his body good energy or bad energy?
Good.
Well, most people would call it, oh, really good energy. Because what is this energy? Well, it is our survival energy. The problem with this survival energy is that it was not made for this world. It was designed over 2 million years since the Stone Age, and it hasn't changed in the last few 10,000 years. Okay, so that's the problem, that our automatic reaction when we get into stress and challenge is that our Stone Age designed survival energy is getting kicked up automatically within split seconds. Okay, now I saw an interview in the news with the guy who was jumped on by a mountain lion. He was all scratched up, but he was probably the happiest human being I've ever seen because he used up all this energy. And 2 days later, he was like all relaxed and happy. Does that make sense? Because what is this energy that gets kicked up inside of us actually designed to do? See, it's very specific. What is it designed to do?
Fight, flight, freeze.
That's
Yeah,
it.
fight, please. Yeah.
It's very particular. Check it the next time you get upset or you get angry. All the energy goes into your fist. It goes into your face, right? Have you ever wondered when you get angry, you're like this, right? Do you see how Stone Agey that is? It's to hit somebody, or it is to intimidate somebody with your teeth, or to defend yourself with your teeth. Do you see how Stone Agey that is? Right? Okay, Taryn.
Sorry, I'm so used to raising my hand on here just because of the whole COVID world and being online. So something that you said interested me. So you said his energy was so high, and then after that, he was so balanced out. So is that implying that after, or that it's, I guess that it's normal that we have these like panic attacks? Because that's what I look at them as, is like these panic attacks are just a way for me to release so that I can get balanced back out. And I think that like in this world, it's so looked upon as like negative, and that like you can't have panic attacks because that's like so terrible and negative. So is that a healthy way, I guess, to balance out?
Well, this is the thing. In his situation, right? He was in this rare situation that was very Stone Agey. So the energy that was kicked up in him, and then the way he used the energy physically fighting off a mountain lion, that's why he was all relaxed and happy. Because he exactly used up exactly the energy in exactly the way it was meant to get used, which is physically. Okay. So my question is, if you are under stress, you have this Stone Age energy kicked up inside of you, and you are not fighting off a mountain lion, you are not using it up running away from a mountain lion, what happens to all this energy? And by the way, have you heard about accidents where there's a child under the car and the mother is like lifting up the car? This energy, this survival energy, is superhuman energy that gets mobilized inside of us. So what happens to the energy if you're not using it up fighting or running, what happens to the energy? Where does it go?
It has to go within our self or something. I mean, somewhere inside of us, it dissipates that way somehow, I'm assuming. I don't know.
It doesn't, okay? So do a test with me, okay? Do a test. Take one of your arms and imagine you are very upset at somebody, very upset, and you want to hit them, right? But you don't want to be in jail. You don't want to get in trouble. So you're holding it in, okay? Do it. You really want to hit somebody and you hold it in. What happens in your arm? What happens in
It
your
It
arm?
gets stiff.
It gets very tense, right? A lot of energy is moving this way. You need a lot of energy to hold it in, okay? Now, this is what is called the freeze response, okay? Because in the Stone Age, if fighting wasn't an option, running wasn't an option, guess what happened next? Playing dead, going into the freeze response was your next option, okay? Now, there was a very, very genius researcher named Peter Levine, and he said, you know, animals in the wild, prey animals, are constantly traumatized. Why don't they have PTSD? Isn't that just the most genius question ever asked? Why don't they have mental health symptoms, right? So guess what they did? They went out to study that. And I want to give you an example that I saw in my trauma training, okay? So they filmed an antelope that was chased by a leopard in the wild in Africa. The antelope has tried everything to escape this leopard, okay? They have been running at like 50 miles an hour for a long time. The leopard is coming closer and closer. The moment the leopard would bite the antelope, do you know what happens? The antelope throws itself on the ground, eyes wide open like this, playing dead, okay? Now, guess what happens in the leopard next? Here is what he was chasing the whole time, right? Right in front of him. What do you think happens in the leopard next?
Did he leave?
Yeah. Okay, first, the leopard is like putting on the brakes, right? They come out of 50 miles an hour. Then you can see the leopard is confused. Literally, you can see it like, what is going on? The leopard is poking on the body of the antelope, like, hello, what is going on? Weren't you just alive, right? And the antelope is like this, not moving. And literally, the leopard turns around and walks away. Now, did you know that because the predator animal has that instinct to not eat dead, rotting, sick meat, did you know that because of this, we have an anxiety epidemic right now? Did you know that? Well, nobody knows that. I want to explain it to you. How do you think the antelope feels on the inside while it's on the outside like that? How do you think it feels on the inside?
Scared.
Totally. Now we have a word for that. How do we call that? We don't call it scared. We call
Anxiety?
it anxiety. That's right, Taryn. We call it anxiety. Do you see that? High pressure, high intensity on the inside, not moving on the outside. Okay? That's what we call anxiety. Now, what else do you think that feels like in humans? What do you think that feels like? let's say a human being is in this state for a long time, having to use a lot of energy to hold in a lot of energy. How do you think this is going to feel over time to a human?
Draining or tired.
Totally. This is where people are so exhausted, they can't even get up in the morning. Now we have a word for that. How do we call that?
Depression.
That's right. We call that depression. Do you know that there's now the first articles being published that anxiety and depression are not mental health disorders that people are born with? They're not chemical imbalances in the brain that people are born with. They are signs of the freeze response. Did you know that? Why are we not teaching this in every school right now? That's wrong, right? Can you see that? That is not okay. Because, again, right, they are healthy reactions to overwhelm. Okay, Cassandra.
So when you're stuck in that freeze response, though, does there become like a chemical imbalance where then medication would need to intervene?
Now, first of all, it probably causes a lot of issues in somebody's brain, right? So yes, it will lead to depletion of neurotransmitters in the brain, but typically not the ones that people get medicated for. Okay, so for example, most people who are in this high stress state, they're gonna end up having a deficiency of dopamine, but not of serotonin, right? So oftentimes it's not clear what serotonins are, what neurotransmitters are out of balance. And so usually people get medicated for something that is not the right thing. That's why a lot of people who have this situation from trauma, by the way, can you see that this is also the reaction of trauma? That is what we call PTSD. Okay? That is what most people who have experienced severe trauma are stuck with. And so if these people are getting put on psychiatric medications, it's not the right intervention. And then what we see is that people later have a medication-induced mental health disorder because the medications are producing a chemical imbalance, okay? If you are curious about that, there is an incredibly important documentary on that issue called Medicating Normal. And we're gonna show it in community because I think you need to watch it in community. It's going to make you so angry and so upset. You don't want to watch it alone, okay? I tell you, I look in my calendar right now. I tell you when we're going to show it. We are showing it on March 15th at Naropa University. You can come and watch it with us in a really cozy wellness room at Naropa in Boulder, or you can watch it online with us. Okay, and to get the invite to this event, it's free again. And to get the invite to this event, you have to go sign up for our emails on naturalhighs.org. Okay, I'm going to put the link in the chat again. That's how you get the invite. So again, right, this is a great question. And if you work with humans, Cassandra, that deal with a lot of trauma, you have to watch this documentary. It follows 5 people who have gone through serious trauma and loss and then had developed symptoms from this situation and were put on psychiatric meds, and it shows the fallout, what happened to these people, because psychiatric meds are not the right intervention for this situation. Because it's not a disorder, right? It's a healthy reaction in the nervous system. Okay? So thank you for asking these questions, right? I want to invite everybody. Just interrupt and ask, okay? Because I'm aware this is a paradigm shift for a lot of people. And I don't know if you've heard that, but it just went through the press that the serotonin deficit hypothesis that depression is caused by a serotonin deficiency is totally debunked. Okay. Now we knew that already for 10 years, but just now it went through the mainstream press that depression is not caused by a serotonin deficiency. In most people, depression is caused by this. They're stuck in the freeze response and they don't know how to get out. This is what it feels like when people are laying on the couch and they're like, I don't know what to do. I can't move. I can't move. I know I have so much to do. I just can't do it. Can you see why? What other symptoms do you think this would create in a person if they're stuck in a freeze response like that? Because actually it creates lots of symptoms. Like what other symptoms?
Paranoia.
Despair.
Totally. Despair, paranoia, totally. And what else? How, when somebody comes home at night, what do you think they do when they feel like that? What do you think they do?
I think they medicate.
Of course, they go to the fridge and they open a beer or they open a bottle of wine. Does that make sense? Now, would alcohol get a person here? Would alcohol get somebody up down here? No, it doesn't. I show you what happens. People get a vacation, right? They get away from this for a moment. And then when the chemical wears off, where is somebody at? They're even in a worse place. And then what do they do next? They do more of it. Okay. So that's the problem, that people really try desperately to get away from that, but that substances do not unravel that. Now, I saw that there was a really great question in the chat. So Kara, right? Are you saying that no one ever needs SSRIs or just that they are most definitely overprescribed? Okay, so I'm not a medical doctor, right? So I'm not allowed to give any kind of like opinion on psychiatric meds. I just have to tell you from my experience working as a trauma therapist, I don't remember a person who had anxiety, depression, PTSD, all these symptoms without having also severe trauma in their background. So that stands out to me, that a lot of people, like I literally can't even remember if I ever worked with a person with severe mental health symptoms who has not gone through trauma or loss or grief. Okay. So that's just my experience in my work. There might be somebody where
Sorry, I guess that doesn't really answer my question. That's probably true. I believe that that's true, but I still have the question.
yeah, no, and I'm, I want to learn. I'm very open. I just want to know, I want to learn. And there are people who have gotten benefits from SSRIs, right? But it's actually a minority of the people who have them gotten prescribed.
Well, right. That's what I said. So obviously they're overprescribed, but I think it's a bit presumptuous to say that they should never be prescribed.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
I'm hearing.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Thank you for clarifying that. Right. So I'm not saying that. I know that medications can be life-saving for people in emergencies, right? They were often designed to be used very short term. They are also only studied very short term. And so, yes, I mean, I have been on clinical teams where I have asked people to be evaluated for medications, right? Because we know that sometimes people need medications to be safe. 100%. Yeah, thank you so much. I get sometimes so passionate. I'm not specific enough. So thank you for clarifying that. Really important. Super. Okay. Anything else that you think this would cause? What that would feel like in humans? Can you see how this would lead to sleep problems? Can you see how this would lead to symptoms that people would have a hard time focusing and concentrating? Can you see how this would lead to a lot of physical problems? Like digestive issues, like getting sick, like developing chronic illness. Can you see that? Yeah. And so this is really tricky, right? So what would actually help a human being get out of that freeze response? How do we get out of it?
Actually, movement, actually, kind of trying to build up maybe, like you said, more serotonin or movement, just moving. And I think I've heard that in a study that animals, they actually shake at the end. And that is actually a natural, wonderful response by them.
Totally. Now, this is very interesting, right? Because people say that movement, exercise. Now, we live in a community where people probably exercise more than any other place in the world, probably, or in the country. Why do we still have an anxiety problem in Boulder? Right? I believe that a lot of people exercise in a way not to unravel this, but to get away from it. That a lot of people don't know, even with exercise, how do I actually unlock that freeze response? Okay. But you are absolutely right, Rhonda, that this is the cool thing about the trauma research, right? They studied, of course, how did the antelope get itself out of the freeze response? Okay. And I want to tell you how the antelope gets itself out of it. So, Taryn, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, and I have a question. So I guess what would that really look like in the exercising sense? Because I know that like the mainstream is to like either go to the gym or like go on a run. And just my first instinct was just I want to spin in a circle, like just because that just seems like an unraveling thing to me. So what would be like an appropriate exercise for unraveling emotion?
Well, we developed techniques in Natural Highs how to do it that I want to teach you tonight. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you how the antelope gets itself out of the freeze response. And then I'm going to show you how we teach it to kids, to parents, to everybody. Okay. So, all right. So the leopard is gone, right? The antelope is like that. How does the antelope get itself out of the freeze response? How does it do it? See, because it can't just get up. The disconnect between the intensity on the inside and the being still on the outside is so intense it cannot get up. Also, nature put it so that we stay in the freeze response until the leopard is really gone. Okay, that's a problem. That's why people are like laying on the couch. I can't get up. I know I need to go to the gym. I can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah, because the brainstem is literally saying to us, stay in the freeze response until the predator is really gone. Okay, that's why it's so hard. Now, they watched, right? How does the antelope get itself out of it? The first part of the antelope that starts moving is the belly. There is a very particular breathing pattern that the antelope does that starts the whole process of unraveling, okay? And the breathing is that the antelope takes some very particular breaths into the belly, that the belly goes like this. Right? So we know that that breathing, it's called abdominal breathing, is actually kicking up the parasympathetic nervous system state, which is the nervous system when we come down. So you can use that. You can learn that, right? How to breathe into your belly so that your nervous system can switch into the parasympathetic state. After the belly moves like that, the whole animal starts shaking uncontrollably. It starts shaking. So there is a natural process in prey animals that release this tension, and it's with involuntary movement like shaking, okay? Now we humans, we have also a bunch of these in addition to the shaking. We have a bunch of these that are built into us. What other mechanisms by nature were given to us to unlock the freeze response? What do humans do after trauma? What do humans do after really hard things? Yeah, crying, right? Exactly. Crying or screaming or running. Now, most of these things, crying, screaming, are kind of made taboo in our culture. Why is it that the mechanisms, or like shaking uncontrollably, right? Why is it that exactly the mechanisms that would get us out of the freeze response are made taboo in our culture? Why do you think that is?
Because it makes the rest of us uncomfortable.
Totally. Because the moment one human being does that, everybody around them feels that they also have that. That's why adults are like to children, don't cry, it's okay, it's okay. Do you see why? Because it makes us feel uncomfortable. But why did this get started? Why were the mechanisms that would actually heal us out of this freeze response? Why are we living in a culture where all of them are made taboo?
Big pharma.
Not just big pharma, right? Big money, everything. Do you see how much we want to buy up here? Alcohol, marijuana, junk food, ice cream, pizza. Do you see that? New clothes, new shampoos, new cars. Do you see that? Do you see how much we would want to buy down here? Down here, you feel content and satisfied. Okay, how much do you want to buy if you feel content and satisfied? How much time do people in our culture spend being content and satisfied? How much? Never. Never. Do you see that? There are a lot of forces in our culture that want to keep us there. And I don't want you to believe what I say. I want you to start paying attention and asking these kinds of questions. Okay? All right. So, do you want me to show you the trick that we figured out how to unlock the freeze response? Okay. I want to show you. So, you can do the technique on whatever level of severity you want to do it tonight. Okay. You can do it on the level of stress. You can do it on the level of anxiety, or you can do it on the level of trauma. Trust your own instinct. If you feel like, I don't want to do it at all, I just want to learn about it, I don't want to do it, that's fine. Trust your own instinct. And by the way, you don't need to take notes, because after COVID, we made a recording of the exercise that I'm going to give to you for free. Okay, so you don't need to worry to remember things. I will give you a recording that you can download and access anytime you want to do the exercise again. And you can share it with anybody. Okay, all right. Any questions before we dive in? Awesome. Okay, so take a big breath and a big stretch. And then bring your attention inward. Now, just to give you a heads up, this is not a feel-good exercise. This is not a relaxation exercise. I will ask you in the beginning to actually let yourself be uncomfortable, okay? I want you to remember a situation where you feel stress or anxiety. You can remember a situation where you would feel stress or anxiety, or a situation that typically kicks this up, okay? And I'd like for you to fully allow that in your body, to go into that state of stress or anxiety. And I promise you, I will help you unlock it, okay? So the first step is you ask yourself, where is it the most tangible? Where do you feel it? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your shoulders? Just see where it is the most clear. It might be everywhere, but pick one place where it's the most tangible. Okay. The next question is, if you would have to pick a color to represent it, what is it like? Is it red? Is it black? Is it blue? What color would represent it the best? And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? You just pick one. And then you ask yourself, what texture does it have? Is it pokey? Is it staticky? Is it heavy? What is it like? So you make it super tangible. And I tell you why. Because the part of the brain that is actually organizing the freeze response is very Stone Agey. It doesn't speak the language of words. It works much better with the language of color and images. And so that's why I'm going to speak to you in Stone Age language, okay? So the next step you do is you let your brain realize that this color, this energy, the whatever got pressed, right? That is not bad energy. This is actually your body's best life force, your body's best energy that your body is kicking up to help you. So let your brain realize that and see what happens. See, the issue, the reason this energy feels so bad is because it's very primitive, it's very physical, it's very intense. And then what happens around it, your body gets tense around it, right? Do you know why I can predict that? Because I know that it's the freeze response. Okay, so you let your brain check that. Oh, the energy that got trapped here is not my enemy. It's not a problem. It's actually my best life force that is trying to help me here. You know, in Chinese medicine, people call this energy qi. So literally, this is your best qi that is getting kicked up to help you. Okay, so let your brain check what that does. And then you can imagine that from this container where the energy got trapped, that there's two channels coming out with two little valves on them. And very gently and very slowly, you can open up these channels, you can open up these valves so that this trapped energy, this trapped color can slowly flow back into your body. Let yourself do that. Imagine you could open up these valves very gently, very slowly, and in a very measured way. You could let the energy, you could let the color flow back into your body. And see how that feels like. See how it changes the quality of the energy. Sometimes it changes the color. And see what that feels like when the energy gets liberated again, when it can flow into your body again. Now, if there is too much energy and you feel like you need to let some of it go and flow out of your body, that is totally okay. You can let whatever feels too much flow out of your hands, out of your fingertips, or out of the soles of your feet. Whatever feels too much, you can let it go. And whatever you want to keep, you can circulate it in your body. You can spread it out in your body. And let your brainstem, let your brain check that it is completely safe to unlock the energy. There's no mountain lions around you right now, hopefully. So it's completely safe to get out of the freeze response, but you need to show your brain, right, to convince it that it's actually safe to get out of the freeze response right now. Now, if you could use this energy, if you could channel this color towards anything you want energy for, what would you do with it? What would you channel it towards? You know, some people say, well, I would exercise with it. Some people say, I would take a walk with it. Some people say, I would clean my house with it. Some people say, I would do my emails with it. You get to do whatever you want. Whatever you want energy for, you get to channel it. So let yourself imagine that you now know the secret trick, how to get out of your freeze response, and you can channel the energy towards anything you want to use the energy for. Imagine that. How would that feel? And if you could learn to override a 2 million-year-old reflex, you know what I just taught you is not easy to do, because you're going to have to teach your brain to override a 2 million-year-old reflex. But if you would learn how to do that, just feel it. How would you rate your experience with this energy? -5, I hate it, to +5, I love it. How would you rate your experience with this energy? If you would learn how to get out of the freeze response. Now, before you come back, do one last thing. You have to create a reminder for yourself, okay? Because the next time you go into stress or anxiety, your brain will go into the 2 million-year-old reflex of freeze. How in that moment would you remind yourself that you can unlock it? I tell you what works really well is either the color or an image. Like, what would be your best image or your best color to remind yourself next time you get into stress that you do not have to lock up your energy, that you can unlock it, and then you can channel it and actually use it. And when you have your color or your reminder, you get to take another big breath and a big stretch, and you get to come back. Okay. How was it? How did it work? What did you experience?
It worked well, and for me, I just felt control.
Right? Because again, the freeze response, of course, we feel out of control because it's automatic. Your brainstem does that without your conscious choice, right? And if you learn that the freeze response is really not the best response in this modern world because there's not that many wild animals jumping on us, then you can have a choice to actually unlock it. Beautiful. Okay, what else? What else happened? I want to hear from everybody. Could you make it work? Could you unlock your beautiful energy?
I did. And I started yawning.
Well, yawning is a very good sign. It's a sign that you're going into the parasympathetic nervous system state. Great, fantastic, right? Yes. See, it's infectious. I love it. Yes, beautiful, Robin. Is there anybody who could not do it? Is there anybody who could not do it? I want to hear about it. Could you all do it? Now, how would you rate your experience with stress and anxiety if you could do it? Would it change your number? Yeah, how would it change your number? From hating it to loving it? Okay, so I want to show you a few more versions, a few more tricks, okay? Because, and I think Ari might have had to jump off, but Ari's question, right? Like, what do you do in an acute panic attack? So if somebody is in an acute panic attack, they cannot do what I just taught you to do, okay? They can't do it. It's too much energy. So the version, the first aid version for if somebody is in very acute anxiety or panic or trauma, oh no, I don't want to do that. Hold on. Let me just show you the version that we teach kids with acute panic attacks or adults, come on, do it, please, is you find something that you can push against. Come on, do it for me. You find something that you can push against, okay? So we teach kids who have panic attacks in school to go to the bathroom and push against the wall. And then you have the Stone Age channel through your arms and through your legs to actually push the color into a wall. We teach parents to do it pushing against their children, right? Like doing a game out of it, where you push and you open the channels and you allow kids, especially little kids, to move their stress by pushing against you. Or people can do it against the floor, right? So if you actually give your hands something tangible to push, it helps move the energy when it gets really intense. Okay, I want to show you a few more tricks. So I want to attach, we have a ton of resources and I want to attach it right now. Oh my God, it doesn't let me do it. Oh, I want to attach, I don't think it lets me do it. Darn it. I don't know if Travis has to make me the host to be able to attach something here for you. Oh, let me try here. Oh, I think I can, no, can't do it. Okay, let me find out towards the end if I can attach it. So let me show you right now. Okay, so there are lots and lots of nervous system tricks that you can do to move your system from the sympathetic nervous system state, the freeze response, into the parasympathetic state where you can relax. Okay, so we have lists of things, and hopefully at the end I can attach it for you so you have these lists, these handouts. The other thing we are using in our program is that we use lots of healthy herbs. So there are actually lots and lots of healthy, non-addictive herbs that also help the body go from the sympathetic nervous system state into the parasympathetic state. So here's a list of herbs that do that we use in our program for stress and anxiety. And there's also a lot of herbs that help give people a sense of energy who have lived in the state of depletion for a long time. Now, you don't need to remember any of these herbs because we have these amazing resources in our community, Rebecca's Apothecary and the Little Herbal Apothecary in Lafayette, where you literally just can walk in. Everybody who's there is a trained herbalist, and you can say, do you have herbs for anxiety or for stress or for trauma? So just know that, right? So you are in good hands with them. All these herbs are, like I said, non-addictive. They are safe. They are not interfering with psychiatric medications. And, you know, if you have any specific concerns, you need to let the herbalist know. So here is the free recording to the technique that I just taught you. You can find it on our website, naturalhighs.org. It's in our shop. We had to put it through the shop so that you can download it, but you can use the coupon Frontline Worker to get it for free, okay? Because we want this to be in everybody's hands. Here is a list of articles that shows the difference between the freeze response and a mental health disorder, right? So happy to get you this, the slides. Either at the end, I can attach it, or you can email me and I will send it to you. The other big resource that we are offering for stress and anxiety is AccuDetox. And I just want to see who is here who can introduce AccuDetox. Because we have people here who know it, and I don't want to be the only one talking. So who can explain to people what AccuDetox is and what it does for stress and anxiety. Who wants to explain it? Who can explain what AccuDetox is and how it helps with stress and anxiety? I don't want to.
I can explain as a patient. I'm not a practitioner, but I've had this done. Yeah, so for me as a patient, it's acupuncture on certain ear points that gets this energy that you spoke of, the chi in your body, to be able to move around and opens up these channels. And it's something you'll just sit with some needles in your ear. It doesn't really hurt very much. Sometimes there's a pinch, but there's not really pain involved. And you'll just sit with these needles, poke into your ears, and it just helps this energy get moving. And then that, like the night that I have this treatment, that evening, I get great sleep. I feel great. I feel life is there for me, and it's all mine. And it's a completely mind altering experience. It's just all positive. So that's been my experience with it.
Okay, you just did the most beautiful overview of what AccuDetox does. Beautiful. That's exactly what Mark said. Watch it. Watch it. This state is the sympathetic nervous system state. The AccuDetox, the 5 needles, will literally move your nervous system to the parasympathetic state, where you can actually relax and unlock your chi. Now, in Chinese medicine, people would think we are nuts that we want to get rid of our stress, rid of our anxiety, rid of our anger, because people would say, this is your chi. This is your most precious life force. You don't want to get rid of it. You want to learn how to channel it. Okay, so this is why AccuDetox is so amazing, because if you are somebody or you know somebody who's too tired to do even the exercise that we just did, drag them to AccuDetox, because the needles will do it for them. Okay, so we started a website, boulderacudetox.org, where we at this point have 4 locations. We have locations in Boulder, in Lafayette, in South Boulder, pretty soon in Longmont, where we offer free AccuDetox for everybody. We have given out over 4,000 treatments in 2020, and we plan on giving out even more this year, because we want that everybody has that experience that Mark just talked about, that you can be liberated and that you don't have to sit with anxiety and depression. So please, you can bring your whole family. We have non-needle alternatives for little kids. You can bring the whole family, totally fine, okay? So here we do it on Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6:30 on Spruce Street. But like I said, we have all these different locations, and the website is boulderacudetox.org. And there will always be the updated locations and times on that website. That's why we created this hub, okay? So I also want to invite you. So we have tons of resources that you can plug into. Our next bilingual free online evening in a month on March 22nd is the brain chemistry of substances and healthy alternatives to drugs and alcohol. So if you are curious about the herbs we work with, the brain chemistry we work with, you should come. And this is really an evening for, I would say, parents, high school age kids, middle school age kids, probably not so much elementary school kids, but middle school and up, everybody is welcome. Okay, so please let people know, okay, that this is available to you. And so here we have this whole series, every month a new cutting edge topic on mental health, resilience, substance abuse prevention. And if you want to be getting these invites, sign up with your email on naturalhighs.org. That's how you get into the loop of things. So I ask you for a favor. I will be on here for a few minutes for questions, but I ask you for a favor, and that is we need your feedback, because the City of Boulder is supporting this series. And if you want that this kind of resource keeps going, your feedback can help. So this is the QR code. You can just put your phone on the QR code right now, and it gives you a link to a survey. And we have one in English and we have one in Spanish. Okay. And then I will also put the links in the chat. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to get out of the sharing and give you the links. Let me do that for a second. I will put up the links here in a second again. Let me just pull up the links so that you have it also in the chat. And again, right, sorry, I don't want to make you work in the evening, but this is literally what keeps, this is literally what helps us keep this going. So let me just make sure I find the right links for you. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. So here they are in the chat. Here they are in the chat. Here we go. So you can either pick the links up here, or I will put them up again as a QR code. So make sure you click on the link in English or in Spanish. Callie, your question, where are you located? Callie, where are you located? So AccuDetox should be available.
I'm in Idaho.
Okay. So AccuDetox is available, should be available, like worldwide. It's now used mostly after trauma and disasters. I would say go on AccuDetox.com. That is the national AccuDetox website, and see if you can find practitioners in Idaho where you are, or send them an email and say, where are the practitioners in Idaho? Also, you can ask any acupuncturist to give you the NADA protocol or the AccuDetox protocol. Every acupuncturist can look it up. Or you can also go to a community acupuncture clinic that often offer low cost acupuncture. They can also do that protocol for you, right? It's 5 points in the ear, and everybody who is a licensed acupuncturist can look that up for you. Okay. So that's a way to get it. We have a situation now in Colorado where we can now train anybody. So we are now training people on probation. We are training teens. We're training anybody. So we are offering trainings in AccuDetox to be a certified practitioner about every 2 months. Okay. All right. So I want to hear questions, takeaways.
I think the picture, the diagram you drew for me really just helped put this into perspective. And I have a picture now when something happens and I'm stressed and anxious, instead of letting that kind of take over me, I'm going to picture myself up here. And then how do I get back down here reasonably? How do I do that? And I just know where to go now.
That's it. I tell you, that is the trick for the brainstem, is images. And I tell you, I teach this to every trauma survivor I work with. We teach this in every school where we are. We teach it to therapists, to professionals. The moment people have an image, you can get out of overwhelm, because your brainstem is like, oh, I do not have to play dead right now, right? It is an incredible hack for the brainstem. is to have these images. And so, yes, very powerful. And please do me a favor, teach it to everybody who you know who's suffering from anxiety. Okay. So there was a question about more information on the AcuDetox training. So you go on boulderacudetox.org. I'm putting it right now in the chat. And on that website is a tab that says training. And you go on there and it has all the info on the trainings there. And you can already pre-register. You can put your info into the form because they're always booked out. The next one, we're just finalizing our dates. It's going to probably be in the middle of April, but you can already pre-register. You don't have to pay, just so that you get a spot, okay? So let me check if Travis is on. Travis, are you on? Could you make me the host so that I can attach the handouts? That would be so good. Okay. If Travis is not on yet, I'm going to put my email in the chat. If you want the handouts and the resource worksheets, you can email me, okay? Totally fine. Because I'd like to give them to you. Also, let me put the link to the recording. I want you to have it. The link to the recording. So that you can download that you don't have to find it. Hold on, I'm just looking it up. That you don't have to find it yourself. Here we go. Let me just find you the direct link. Okay, so the recording of the exercise is here. And the recording is here, and you use the promo code Frontline Worker to get it for free, okay? Okay, somebody asked, what books or reading material do you recommend? There are books and reading material on our handouts. So the person should email me on at avani@naropa.edu, and I will send out the handouts. Okay, any questions? Are you ready to do it? Can you apply it in your life now? Yes? Okay. All right. Okay, I know some of you might have to go. That's totally fine, but I want to be here for questions. Are you equipped to teach it to your children now? Yeah? Okay. Any questions?
I have a question, just the way you talked about stress, anxiety, and trauma. Are these 3 levels of the same thing? That's what it comes down to? Okay.
Okay, this whole process happens with stress, happens with anxiety, and happens with the most severe trauma. So I work as a trauma therapist. I do a technique called brain spotting. Every person I work with trauma, I teach them this first. It is exactly this process, okay? And then if the trauma is very severe, it's going to be hard for the person to do this on their own, right? That's where you need a trauma therapist. And brain spotting does that, right? It unlocks this material and releases it. And it doesn't matter if the trauma was from, a week ago or if it was from 50 years ago. It doesn't matter. That freeze response is beyond time and space, right? It just stays. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was great. God bless you for the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Okay, anybody else? Questions? Okay, I want to thank you for being such engaged humans. Oh my God. Thank you for caring about yourself, about your family, about your clients, about everybody. we need people trained in this kind of stuff, okay? Because it's hard times. A lot of people are too much stress. You know, there was just a survey study coming out in the news yesterday. I don't know if you heard it, that 60% of all teenage girls express that they have persistent hopelessness, which qualifies for depression. 60%. It's unbelievable. And they don't have a mental health disorder, right? They're just stuck in that freeze response, and they deserve to learn about it and not to be pathologized for it. Totally. So please spread the word. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I hope that you become part of our community. Sign up for our invites. We'd love to see you next month. Learn about the brain chemistry of substances like alcohol, marijuana, what people are trying to do with that, and how they could do it in a much smarter way. So if you know of people who would benefit from that, please let them know. It's going to be, again, bilingual, thanks to the I Have a Dream Foundation. We're so grateful. And thank you so much for translating for us today, Elena and Myra from Mexico City. It's so amazing to have you on. Yay. Super wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Myra. Greetings to Mexico City. Super. Isn't that something? So happy that we can all be together. Awesome.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, Mark. Thank you. Bye, Sandra. Bye, Rhonda. Bye, Robin. Bye, Julie. Thank you. Many thanks to you all. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.